Hello everyone, I'm Rabbi Chaitovsky here at my office at BMH-BJ. Welcome to another video Dvar. I was recently involved in two situations, one communal and one a bit more private, that potentially could have led to machloket, or division. And I'm not a big fan of division and argument. I always try to be a mediator. Indeed, one of my colleagues once said that that's the main job of a rabbi, is to sow the seeds of peace and to mediate whenever possible. And both situations are thankfully being resolved, I believe, in an appropriate and non-divisive way. But I couldn't help but think about those two situations as I was reviewing this week's Torah portion, the Torah portion of Vayechi, which talks about Yaakov's last years after being reunited with his beloved Yosef. They're living in Egypt, they're living in Goshen, and of course this sets the stage for the Jewish people in Egypt and the next book of the Torah, the book of Shemot, which will describe the slavery and ultimate exodus from Egypt. But in this week's Torah portion, Yaakov dies, and he extracts a promise from his children to not bury him in Egypt, not to let him remain in Egypt. And the Torah portion tells us in chapter 50 that indeed the brothers did transport their father back to the ancestral burial ground that we know as Mi'arat HaMachpelah, the double cave of Machpelah. And the Torah portion puts the spotlight back on the brothers after they have returned from the burial. And we are introduced to something very strange, a strange little episode, and I wonder how we react to that. It says, Vayiru achei Yosef ki met avihem. The brothers of Joseph saw that their father had died. Well, of course they saw their father had died. They just returned from burying him. And the commentators noticed this, and what they said was that they perceived the effect that the death of Yaakov had on Yosef. Not only because Yosef was so close to his father, but little things began to change. Matters of protocol, the Midrash says, began to change. Seating arrangements began to change out of deference to their father's empty chair. And the brothers were scared that Yosef would begin to extract revenge on them. Reminding me of that scene from The Godfather, where Michael Corleone says, as long as my mother is alive, nothing will happen to Fredo. But as soon as mom dies, Fredo gets it in the back of the head. The brothers were thinking, now that dad is not here, maybe Yosef will avenge all the horrible things we did to him when we were much younger and much more foolish many, many years ago. Joseph assures them that none of this is going to happen, but it's what they said to him that I find fascinating. It says, Vayitzavu el Yosef leimor. They sent a mission, a message to Joseph. And this is what they said. Avicha tziva lifnei moto. Your father commanded before he died as follows. Ko termu li Yosef, so you shall say to Joseph, Ana sana pesha achecha, please forgive the infraction, forgive the sins of your brothers. V'chatatam, and the mistakes they made, ki ra'a gemalucha, that harmed you. V'ata, now sana lefesha avdei Elohei avicha, forgive what they had done. Let bygones be bygones. And Yosef, of course, says, no problem. I never had any intention of taking revenge anyway. And he puts it in the context of, it's all God. It's all God's plan. And we know that this is a hallmark of Yosef. This is how he talks. He always mentions God's name. From the moment he stood before Pharaoh and said, the ability to interpret dreams is not mine, but it belongs to God. Right here at the very end, he says, this is all part of God's plan. You have nothing to worry about. The problem is, though, we have no record anywhere of Yaakov ever saying these words. In a Torah portion where it's so detailed as to what Yaakov said on his deathbed to his children and his grandchildren, you have no record of Yaakov ever saying, go tell Joseph, I want Joseph to forgive you. Let him know that I said this. And the Medrash says that indeed, Yaakov never said these words. And yet, they're in the Torah. It's a lie. And it's in the Torah. Or at least it's a half-truth. And our tradition tells us that for the sake of truth, for the sake of peace, and for the sake of family harmony, you're allowed to bend the truth a little bit. Because family harmony, peace, non-divisiveness, no machloket is the ultimate goal. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but whenever possible, we need to strive for harmony, for coexistence, for getting along with each other, not only within the family, especially within the family, but even outside the family as well. And that's one of the messages of this week's Torah portion, a Torah portion which concludes the book of Bereshit, which talks about our first families, and very often highlights the divisiveness that existed within them. We can learn many lessons from the book of Bereshit, and the book concludes with the message of peace and harmony. It's a good lesson to learn. Shabbat Shalom.